Hey, you guys, welcome to the Married at First Sight reunion part two live chat. Welcome, you guys. Let me know where you're from. I know that the notification probably came out about a little over an hour ago. So hopefully you got both the notification that came then, and of course, the notification that just came just now. So I want to wait till a few more people get in here so we can chat. For the ones that are here, let me know where you're from and what did you think of the reunion last night? It was pretty interesting to say the least, especially when it came to Lindsay and Alyssa. Yeah, that whole thing was crazy. So we are going to talk about it. I see a couple of you guys already here. So let me know um, where you're from. And yeah, let me know who's here. We'll give it a couple more minutes and then we're going to go get started. Okay. So let's just go ahead and as they come in, hopefully everybody will just catch up. Welcome. We're going to get started. We got to talk about this reunion, y'all. Part two. Can you believe the season is almost over? But what I also can't believe is that there is like what 3, 4 more episodes up into season 15. Did you guys catch the season 15 couples for San Diego? If you haven't, I did a meet the couples video yesterday. So go on my channel and check it out. Um, the first pictures that came out about a week ago, I wasn't really sure, but looking at the ones that was released by People's Magazine and a couple of the other media franchises, some of those couples look pretty good together. I will say one of the couples look like they can be related. That was the tripped out thing. I was like, and I think what's the name, Stasia, and I forgot his name, but they look like they can be related. I was like, whoa, I didn't know about that. I think everybody was talking about that, but let's go ahead and jump into all of the crazy moments from this Boston reunion part two. So, as you guys know, the reunion is coming to a close, and it was definitely some drama last night. So, um, we had like I think 3 different sections to yesterday. So it had the segment with the experts, which we get 2 new experts next year because we're losing Dr. Viviana. And then of course we had the ladies chat, the men's chat, and then the group chat. So let's go ahead and get this thing started. And I don't want to waste any more time. And go ahead and let's talk about this. So the first one, a segment we need to talk about is this whole ladies chat. So they open up the episode with this, where the ladies had a discussion and they got kind of candid about their own bonds with the relationships they built with, the husbands. um, Now we did see that the women did agree that their first impressions of each other, because they took us all the way back to the beginning with some of the clips and some of the first impressions that they had of each other. Now, for the most part, it was positive, except when it came to Lindsay, because then this whole thing about Lindsay and Alyssa and how Alyssa blocked her on social media. What did y'all think about that? That whole thing was just absolutely crazy. Um, then we see Jasmina chimed in, talking about how she also unfollowed Lindsay but didn't block her. Okay, that's weird. I'm wondering what happened or what the deal was with that. That was crazy. Um, But it went back to Alyssa talking about how she felt so uncomfortable around Lindsay, and then we saw some comments that Lindsay had, with the cameras back at that bachelorette party. She was not feeling Alyssa for whatever reason, and obviously that whole thing continued throughout the season, and then of course Alyssa left, and then next thing we know, back at the reunion, they're pretty much throwing darts at each other. Um, However, regarding, hey girl, hey Shanice, what's going on, girl? Um, Meanwhile, Noy was definitely surprised that Jazz and Michael didn't make it. I wasn't surprised, and we kind of talked about that last week. I just don't think, as much as they, are good friends, I really don't see any type of, any relationship vibes with the two of them. Um, Lindsay and Jasmina have become fans of Elijah One since his improved treatment of Katina following the show. We even heard Jasmina say that she cussed him out a bunch of times. I was like, wow. Um, but overall, I don't know. A lot of people was concerned about the fact that some of the ladies were probably lying about, because they was one a lot of the fans was wondering how all of the ladies can support Alyssa, and it seemed like they supported more of Alyssa over Lindsay. I mean, we've seen the behavior on both sides, but maybe she had a different energy or relationship when it came to the ladies. But as for the for Lindsay, nah, nah. But they definitely had her back. So let's talk about that. So the conversation did turn back to Lindsay. Jasmina never liked Michael from the first time she saw him. No, she didn't. She wasn't feeling him at all. Wasn't feeling him at all. And the crazy thing is that, especially, it should have been known after the first month that they didn't talk. I mean, if you don't talk to somebody and you're like two ships in the night, on one day, on day 1 through 30, that's a problem. That's a whole problem. So yeah, it wasn't no surprise to me, but obviously to the rest of them, it was. Now Lindsay talked about how, and she admitted that she has a big personality, but claims that she was receptive to comments and advice that come her way. Yeah, I don't know about that. I disagree. Now she accused Alyssa of sending messages to Mark on Instagram. Now, according to Alyssa, she said it was innocent. And, she added that she messaged other people from the cast too. Jasmina jumped in to defend, the other girls, along with the other girls, to help out Alyssa, and then revealed that there was some tension with Lindsay because of her willingness to kind of be cool behind Alyssa's back. Jasmine had also said Lindsay liked to stir the pot, and there's not exactly a denial coming from her, but that whole thing, it was pretty interesting to watch, because there was a little back and forth between Alyssa and Lindsay, but the ladies, Katina, Noy, and Jasmina, seemed like they were more supportive of Alyssa, and that kind of confused a lot of people. I tend to want to check the temperature in the Facebook groups and see what folks are saying, and a lot of people was really shocked about how they were actually supporting Alyssa over Lindsay, because Alyssa, from what we saw in the first 12 days of her being married to Chris, she got a bad rap. Seriously. So for the women to support her, and kind of stand up for her over Lindsay. A lot of people were shocked by that. I think Alyssa is really nice to the ladies, but she just didn't see it for Chris. Now I did, you know what? You're probably right. None of the cast members like Lindsay. Hi, LaQuisha. How are you? Um, yeah, Lindsay rubbed people the wrong way. It is what it is, and she is unapologetic about it. And we'll talk about that apology that she gave at the end of the episode. But that's the thing. I think with Alyssa, she got along with those girls. She just didn't, she wasn't feeling it with Chris. And I think I've heard the whole term that, different people bring different energies. So, but the way she treated Chris and how she acted in front of those cameras is just not a good look. And like Dr. Pepper said, we didn't put no words in your mouth. And, we'll talk about the individual meetings with the experts as well. But, I guess that's what the thing was when she was away from Chris with the girls, it was like nothing. But then when she got around Chris, she just lost her mind. As she stated, she was in a whole mental state from the way she described it. So, I don't know. That whole thing was weird to watch because I mean she's been given a bad rap, but then to see her really get along with the girls and being that they were defending her, a lot that didn't sit well with a lot of people. And to some point, some folks was like, man, well, what does that make? Especially Jasmina, because she really stuck up for Alyssa. The thing is, people was like, well, if she's sticking up for Alyssa, what type of person is she? Or what type of persons are the other girls to be sticking up for somebody to act like that? So it kind of put a bad light on them in some of the fans' eyes because of the fact that, they were having Alyssa's back over Lindsay. Whereas Lindsay, she don't care. Her behavior speaks for itself, and she is unapologetic about it. There's no bones about it with her. So, that whole thing is crazy to me. And I mean, look like to me, I don't know if she was trying to just start drama or something, meaning Lindsay, because if all of them are messaging each other, a lot of them were friends with each other on social media, following each other on their Instagrams or whatever. And obviously they're messaging each other. Lindsay had to make that whole thing as if Alyssa was coming for her man. And I'm like, okay. And at first, I remember her saying that and talking about that on the after party. And, that was a big stink. I mean, folks was talking about it. There was a lot of videos made about it. And then get to the reunion, and they were like, well, we were the men and the women, we were all messaging each other. I mean, because here's the interesting thing. A lot of folks was buzzing about the fact on whether Lindsay was interested in Olajuwon because she would the interactions on the after party and the private talks on the rooftop. So if you can talk to I guess it was a whole problem for whatever going on between Alyssa and she was like, I can show the text message. They were completely platonic. So Shanice says Lindsay was definitely trying to start drama. The entire cast text each other. Noy texts and Alyssa too. Absolutely. Jewel says these persons are all sick and devilish. You think so, huh, Jewel? You think so? Well, I mean, the thing is that I think Lindsay likes the drama, and because whatever drama she can create, it brings attention. I mean, even though, like, okay, let's kind of rewind back. Even though all that drama went on in the beginning with and then she got in front of the cameras and shedding tears, like, he tried to accost me and do all this stuff, and then she ended up being cool with him. And granted, people can work through things, but if you were starting the drama and then they stuck a camera in your face so you can play poor me, She gonna enjoy every moment of that. And she's been getting a lot of camera moments by acting out. So remember they showed us the bowling scene and then the whole thing at the retreat. I mean, there's just been multiple cases and situations that most of the time that the camera was in her face, it was her either say, I'm done, or she was spazzing out. And she had no problem with it. So imagine her trying to make up this drama about Alyssa texting her husband. I don't know what it is she got for Alyssa. And I mean, Alyssa got some questionable behavior too. But seriously, I mean, yeah, to me, it's just crazy. But I like the conversation that, they all had. Let me see. Yeah, they talked about, and that situation and how Jasmina was like, I had to cuss him out sometimes myself. And then the whole thing with Noy and the money situation. And Lindsay was like, that man need to get a job. And I'm like, girl is good. Noy know that man got money. And we heard the other ladies chime in like, okay, I understand about the 9 to 5 thing, but who was that? One of the ladies was like, oh, that was Katina. She was like, well, if a man can travel around the country for 4 months and he was okay with doing it, I think he got some savings somewhere. And obviously, no is good. So far, Lindsay, like, man, that man need a job. They shut her down real quick. It definitely shut her down real quick. So, pretty good conversation with the ladies. I know a lot of the fans um, were happy that, Noy and Steve stayed together and then and Patina stayed together. And a lot of them, are fans of Elijah One now since, the treatment has changed and what we saw and versus now and him reflecting and taking accountability on his behavior, So pretty good conversation. But yeah, that whole thing with Alyssa and Lindsay, it's just some unspoken disdain for each other. I just, yeah, I honestly think she's probably better off in California because, and here's the thing, did you guys, and I kind of talked about this last week on the reunion part one when we chatted, the whole thing about um her leaving, getting some distance with her family too. So I don't know if maybe some of the backlash that she gotten, maybe because a lot of times, when people on these shows, the backlash that they get, the families get it too. So maybe they weren't happy with her behavior, and maybe they kind of hurt, got some exposure from that. So maybe that's why she also mentioned last week that she had to distance herself from her family too. So she moved all the way from the East Coast all the way to California. So that's probably for the best. Maybe she can start her life in a different, whatever. Shanice says, I mean, I can't even believe that people are starting to like O because a few years. I know, right? But see, that's why I always say at the beginning of the season, let it play out. Give people time to grow and progress. Even after the season, wherever they left off, you're going to get to see whether they're going to become this horrible person or were they even the person that we saw on TV and maybe they make progress after the season. But yeah, that was crazy. I mean, the last several weeks is some months, the last couple of months have been about people, saying how O is a horrible person, he'll never change, and you know, that Katina needs to run, she don't know her worth, he's an abuser, all these names under the sun. And sometimes it takes reflection. Because people they do look at themselves like, dang, that wasn't a good look. I need to change that. So it's good that he was able to see that as we heard, especially in the conversation that they had at the reunion part one. And I will say this is that the producers tried to throw the fans off because a lot of people, when we saw the clip of the preview for the reunion part 2, there was this clip with Olajuwon talking about, it's always room to apologize and you have to take accountability. And then they flipped the camera over to Katina. So a lot of people in the comments was like, yeah, see, look what's going to happen next week. And sure enough, it had nothing to do with Katina. So sometimes we got to chill out and see what happens. These producers like to trigger people to get them to watch. And they knew a lot of people wasn't happy with all over the season. So they definitely used some triggers on, the previews for both part 1 and part 2 to get people kind of shaking a little bit. And pretty much they didn't have a lot this episode. Katina and Olajuwon did not have a lot at all. They got a lot of praise from the experts and Kevin Frazier, but for the most part, we didn't get a lot of them. These two. I mean, they had separate speaking parts, but that was it. So, what anybody expected, I think the biggest thing of the reunion with Katina and Olajuwon was last week with the proposal. Shanice says, and I think when the social medias open up next week, more people will be team. Of course they will. And both, I think O has 60 followers right now, and I think Katina's maybe like somewhere around 100. I can guarantee you, probably in about a month, they're going to be well over 6 figures because now the villain pretty much look like the golden child almost. Now there are some folks out there that's like, oh, leopards don't change their spot. Oh, we got to see what happened. There's people that was trying to start rumors about him, talking about, oh, Katina broke up with him after the reunion because somebody sliding his DM. I'm like, don't make up lies. And then it was, thank God, a couple of people hit that post and said, no, that's not true. There's nothing confirmed on that. So at least there are a bunch of people that are supporting him because for a while, if you supported Olajuwon, you were about to get dragged, especially on Facebook. I mean, there was a lot of people because I was supporting them, both of them. I'm all about love, romance, growth, progression. That's my thing. And there was I would make comments like, "Oh, give them time. Let's see if he do the work," or "Oh, that was editing the tattoo, no tattoo, the fake phone, white phone, black phone. Just give him some time." And people came for me. I was like, "Well, I'm gonna speak my piece no matter what." But now we got folks that's kind of changing their tune because at the end of the day, people can, reflect on things, make changes, and grow, right? So you got to allow space for that. All right, let's talk about the guys' perspective. So Kevin Frazier sat down to take that turn to chat with the men. Now, Mark actually steps up first. And he admitted he's a different person when he's around Lindsay. Let's stop right there. Guys, have you seen the energy when he's by himself? He's comfortable, he's chill, he's cool. And I'm going to show you a picture right quick, and then we'll go back to the men. But can you see his body language? He shifted off to the left. This man looked like he's afraid of her. The energy, she is that empowering energy that somebody like Mark, who also he has a high energy himself, he seems like he's afraid of that girl. And that is so crazy to me that she has that type of impact on this man. But he said, he's a different person when he's not around Lindsay. And that's normally when you have a toxic person around you, and I'm not saying she's toxic, but if there is in general a toxic person around you, you going to pick up that tension and that energy being around that person because they're always creating havoc, noise. If they're a bully, that energy they bring into the room is just so uncomfortable and so thick you can cut it with a knife. It's crazy. Shanice says, now we know O ain't got no eyes for nobody but Katina. Now I know. Tell me about it. Tell me about it. Every time someone says Katina's name, he smiles. Yeah, and we'll talk about that other part because you mentioned something last night when we were texting each other, Shanice, that when it comes to talking about intimacy, he's speechless. So we gotta talk about that. LaQuisha says, "Oh, is eating good. He gaining happy weight." I know, right? We're gonna talk about that in the group section of this. The gourmet meals Katina is fixing and them lobster tails. Oh my God. She's like, oh, I'm gonna do what I gotta do, and hopefully he's doing what he's supposed to be doing. And yeah, they look like they doing pretty good over there. Okay, so back to Mark. So Mark does tell the guys that Lindsay bullied him, and they all agree that he made the right move, knowing that, of course, Lindsay supportive acts of kindness did not cancel out all the negative things in the marriage. Because they did show us that clip where she was there when he lost the cat, when he had to get put the cat down. And you can tell that was really, really a heartfelt moment for him because he even started tearing up when he was sitting next to the guy. Um, Now, when it came to Chris, so Chris addresses his marriage to Alyssa, saying that she didn't handle the marriage well when asked whether or not he thinks that she's a good person or not. He really didn't say yes or no to that answer. I mean, to that question. His response was like, "Well, she just didn't handle the marriage well." So, I guess he couldn't per se say, "Oh, no, she's a horrible person," or "She's just not a good person." But he kept it like, "You know what? I think dealing with this situation with her being married to me, she didn't handle well." So, I mean, what do you think about how he responded to that? I wanna know what your thoughts are. Shanice said, "LaQuisha, girl, he living his best life." I know, right? They are, like, happy and smiling. Um, yeah, but for Chris, yeah, Alyssa was done at the when she walked up that aisle. When she got a look at Chris, she was like, "This ain't it." Now, it's one thing when you're not attracted to your the person that you meet, whether it's first date or there's no chemistry or at the altar on Married at First Sight. The problem with that is what you do afterward. Now, like I said last week, there is the whole issue with being stuck with someone for 8 weeks that you don't have compatibility with or that you're not attracted to. How do you deal with that? Now, she can't, I mean, I guess everybody has their own, you know, I don't know. I just think she was way, way left with her actions. And we all saw what that was. But there have been previous seasons where people say no at decision day because they just did not connect. And it is what it is, but they didn't go off like she did. She went from one camera person to the other camera person. And I'm a good person. Y'all making me look bad. And I don't want to be around him. I don't like him. And, oh, he makes me, he's gross and all these things. It was all right there. And it just wasn't a good look. But Chris, I would say, he didn't condemn her. He just pretty much, like I said that, she didn't handle the marriage well. So Shanice says if Alyssa was attracted to Chris, she wouldn't have come across like that. Because to be honest, I don't think she's that bad, but she should not have gaslight Chris like that. Yeah, I mean, you know what? Did you guys see her? A lot of people are not happy about the fact that this girl is getting airtime because in next week episode, Where Are They Now? That episode, Alyssa is there talking to, having some interest with Ryan from season 13 in Houston. And I saw those rumors come out at the beginning of the season that, she was hooking up with him, but I didn't know whether that was real or not, but obviously it was. Kind of like how we heard about Bao and Zach last season, them hooking up after the season. I guess it's the same thing in this situation. And also, guys, Olivia and Chris. Now, I don't know if they're going to work out. I guess we'll have to wait and see because we saw some crazy stuff next week. But yeah, that's going to be interesting. Everybody's looking forward to that because at first people was like, "Oh, why are you dragging out the season? We started the season in January and it's almost June. It's been 6 months. For God's sake, can we give us a break?" And then they start previewing us on Where Are They Now, and everybody's excited. So we get to see after reunion what the lives is like of each of the cast members and the two couples and maybe new couples. I mean, it was stated early in the season that Alyssa wanted a country guy because she's the type of person who she likes to shoot guns, she likes to do stuff in the country, she likes hunting. So she want that type of guy. And Chris is definitely not that. Now, um, we're gonna talk about the experts in that whole conversation that they had with each couple. But my thing is, what the heck did she put on her application? I mean, I would think if she put, I would like a countryman, a man who likes hunting and gun ranges and stuff like that, that they would have actually, if they couldn't find anybody, they would have chosen that for her. What do you guys think? I mean, I would think so. Um, okay, so let me look at the comments. Sharon F. Hey, Sharon. Chris took the high road when talking to Alyssa. Yes, he did. His decision date was 12 days after the marriage. I'm glad he cut it short because honestly, he didn't want to be continually. That's emotional abuse after a while. Gaslighting is extremely emotionally damaging because I mean, what it's supposed to do is make you feel crazy and question your reality. It's almost like for gaslighting. Here's the example: somebody could say, let's say you put something on the counter, and then it's been moved. Now you know you didn't move it, but then when you ask the person if they move it, they'll be like, "I don't know what you're talking about. It was right where it was. I, Nobody moved anything." And then that's when you start to question yourself. Well, her gaslighting was like, "I didn't do anything wrong. I'm a good person. What do you mean? I didn't. I didn't do anything." And us as the fans and Chris and even the experts is like, "What are you talking about? We know what we saw." So, that was the crazy thing. But I will say that Chris handled himself very diplomatically in a very tough situation. I got to give it to him because some people would have acted out. And as much as it was painful, and I know this guy probably signed up to do this because of the fact that he wanted a wife, just like I would say the same thing about Mark. But the two women that they were assigned to, it's like, what were you thinking? Now, in the beginning, I gotta admit that Mark and Lindsay, I think, had the same energy. But that for me, that only lasted after about 1 week, maybe 2 episodes, because when she started on the honeymoon, and I won't say that Mark was 100% innocent because that whole thing that happened on the honeymoon with regards to him sleeping with her and then say, let's slow down, that can be quite confusing. But it's Lindsay's reaction to it. That's the thing, and how she really acted and the things that she did. And, we already know what Alyssa did. Sharon says Ryan will see Alyssa for who she is. He's blonde hair and blue eyes. Okay. And Shanice said Alyssa's trying to gaslight us too. Of course, it's like you got the cameras picking up when she didn't even think the cameras was on. That's the thing. She didn't even know that the cameras was filming her, and that's the same thing Chris said as well. She was doing all this talking when she wasn't being filmed, or at least she thought she wasn't. So that's all you. At least, a lot of times we talk about editing. I always talk about that because, I try to want to see people away from the cameras. Well, we got to see Alyssa away from the cameras because she acted herself thinking that none of that was caught. And obviously there had to been cameras over here, cameras behind the bushes, the cameraman that was way off in the back. I mean, how I honestly don't believe she could not have thought that those cameras wouldn't have picked that up. They want drama. That was drama. So of course the producers are going to eat all of that up because they know the fans is going to drive them crazy. You know, and so for her to say, the cameras are making me look bad. That's not going to work for you. It might work for some of the other ones, like I said, with no tattoo, with tattoo, putting clips in of and the whole phone thing. But for her, that whole thing did not work. It did not work. So she can forget about that. But Chris played it real cool. As like I said, he was definitely really diplomatic about his behavior when it came to Alyssa. He played it cool. He didn't get into no big shouting match with her or get rude, even though she tried to still make him look bad by saying, well, you don't see what go on behind the cameras. And then here's the thing, both the experts asked her that back when she was on the show. Before she stormed off of the show with Keisha Knight Pulliam, the after party, she asked that question, and then she get asked it again here, and she can never answer. What did Chris do when the cameras was away? Well, I don't want to talk about it. Then how, if you want us to understand where you're coming from, and you think that us knowing something else has happened, why bring it up if you don't want to talk about it? It just makes zero sense. It makes no sense. So, like I said, I'm glad that Chris didn't, he just pretty much took it in stride until he could take it no more. And he was out of there. He was like, today is my decision day. Because if it was up to her, she will get that free apartment, hang out with the girls, because obviously from what we saw with the girls chat, the girls were very supportive of her. So she would have absolutely loved to stay in that apartment and then at the same time get to hang out with the other couple, I mean the other girl. So uh-uh. Chris was like, nah, you're not here for the right reasons. And that's when that whole conversation came up. But as for this reunion, the biggest thing he says is that that she just couldn't handle the marriage well. Um, then with the men, Elijah One and Steve open up about having learned a lot through the process and feeling as though they're in better places with their spouses because of it. Yes, they are. And um, I gotta say, we knew Steve was, doing what he was doing, and that I just think they made a long, drawn out storyline with that whole no money situation. Because I mean, seriously, as they should know that the fans are going to do the homework, check the backgrounds to see if this man got money. And I'm telling you, people was coming up with, like, I even had pictures of the newspaper articles showing where he developed some apps. We found out last week the man is in crypto. He's also a sales engineer. He had substantial savings. I just think the fact that they took an entrepreneur and said you had no job, they created a storyline of a broke dude. Now, kind of giving you a tidbit for season 15, catch my recap because each and every person, I guess they realize that we're not going to do that again because we look stupid. But next season, each and every one of them, we got a doctor, we got a medical director, we have digital marketers, we have nurses. I mean, seriously, each and every couple or person that's in a couple for season 14 San Diego, they all have very good jobs. So obviously, they realized that this storyline did not make sense. It made them look like a fool for trying to blow up this whole thing to make it look like he was a broke dude trying to get married. And that was far from the case when it came with Steve. So sometimes I will say is that, the show try to gaslight the fans too. Come on now. We know the deal. That man wasn't broke. As for Elijah one, we saw they talked about, of course, the his behaviors and what he wanted and things like that. And he said that, pretty much he wanted to make sure that he do right by Katina and that he had to look at his behavior and reflect on it and take accountability on that. And like we said, Michael even, chimed in and said, he's done a lot of work and, the conversations that they had all the time as well. Actually, Aubrey, hey there, welcome. Mavs is a mess. Yes, it is. They need to revamp it. And by the way, guys, there are 4 experts next season. I'm also going to do a video about oh my God, what is his name? Because everybody's talking about him and the fact that he just had a divorce and how can he be an expert? Well, guess what? I think um, Dr. Pepper's been married 3 times, so she's been divorced twice. And Pastor Cal has been married twice, so that means he's been divorced once. So this whole notion about, whether you can give advice if you've been divorced before. I mean, seriously, you got actual therapists that are being paid every day for people laying on their couch and they're divorced or single. So I'll do a whole separate video about that because that has been the firestorm in the past 24 hours about Devon Franklin. Thank you very much, actually, about Devon Franklin because of the divorce that happened, that he had back in the fall in December, I think it was, of 2021. So, yeah, I'll do a separate video about that. But I like the fact that, the men seem to be pretty cool with each other. There's a brotherhood going. We didn't get a lot of rift back and forth, like we had with Alyssa and Lindsay. And, sometimes you find a little petty when it comes to, when there's a group of women together. But the men, they seem like they all have a collective brotherhood with each other. They seem to all pretty much stay in touch with each other. So that was no surprise to me there. Yeah, that is Megan Good ex-husband. Correct. But I think he filed for divorce. I gotta go. One thing about me, I like to do my research and then do my recap. So, you know, I'll probably go into a little bit deeper about that because there were a ton of videos on YouTube with content creators talking about their divorce. So I'll do my homework. But the fact that, Devon Franklin being a relationship expert, because a lot of people was like, I didn't even know he was a relationship expert. I thought he was just a preacher and, a producer in Hollywood. So I don't know. And then they do have another lady by the name of Dr. Pia. Yeah, it's all in my video recap of the season 15 couples. So one of the biggest complaints, and then I'm going to move on to the experts that was in the show last night. The biggest complaints that they've had is about the couples not having enough exposure during the season with the experts, especially when things go really bad with the couples. So now that you got 4 people on staff, there should be somebody. If something goes wrong with the couples, or they have a big blow up, or somebody's not attracted to the spouse, or there's an argument, somebody should be able to step in. You got enough people. You had 3 for the last several years with Dr. Viviana, Pastor Cal, and Dr. Pepper. Now you got 4. So you got the two veterans and the two newbies. So there should be no excuse. Fueled by intentions, welcome. Says, who is Megan Good ex-husband and what does that do with Married at First Sight? I'm late party. Okay. So Megan Good ex-husband Devon Franklin for season 15, which starts July 6th. He's going to be one of the two new experts on the show. Yes. So Dr. Viviana is leaving. She got a lot of new projects that she's doing on her own. Plus, she's a married woman herself, so I don't think they have any children. I don't know if she's trying to start a family now, but I think she kind of, I could understand if she want to get off the road a little bit because these seasons are running concurrent. We used to get a break in between, but they're filming right now, Nashville. So they're finishing up, I think, San Diego, and then season 16 is in Nashville, and they're already started on that. So I can imagine Dr. Viviana's like, you know what? Hey, I'm done with this. I need to do my own stuff at home. Plus, she got a whole husband herself. So Devon Franklin and this other doctor, she's a female, um, and she's a renowned relationship sex therapist. So I guess she's the one that's going to fill in for Dr. Viviana, and then Devon Franklin is going to be the fourth expert, I'm assuming. So that's what that's about. LaQuisha says it seemed like this season the couples had to figure it out on their own. It's been like that, it seems, since season 11. So when COVID hit back in 2020, this is the season in New Orleans where we would normally see the experts pop in and out, but then because of the pandemic, they couldn't. And it seemed like ever since then, once they realized, well, we don't need these experts up in the apartments all the time, let's just leave it like it is. It seems like season 12, 13, and 14, was where they had to figure it out on their own. It was pretty weird because remember in season 13 we had the big blow up between Rachel and Jose, and she's kicked out the house, or locked out the house, I should say, because she left and couldn't get back in, and then the whole thing in season 12 with Chris and Paige. That, even though that was the most craziest drama, but it made a ton of cash for the show. And that's unfortunate. So who was that says, actually, Aubrey, when you said Mavs is a mess, to me, after season 11, everything went downhill because it became more about viewership, money, ratings, and all of that stuff instead of it being about, you know, finding true love and marriages and being able to help the couples. I mean, season 12, I think they were on the top 5 for Wednesday nights for like weeks straight. And I think the viewership were well in the millions all over that drama. And they made a ton from endorsements and stuff like that. I mean, don't trade off the mental health of the couples for some cash. I mean, that was crazy to me. I like Devon because I'm a Christian as well. However, I'm not sure it will go over since he's newly divorced. If you can't keep your marriage, how can you help me? Is that mean? Sorry if so. Well, here's the thing. Sometimes I will say that because I think they were not married for 9 years. And um, there's a lot of commentary around that. Sometimes things just don't work out. And like I said, when I do my recap on that whole thing, I'm going to do um, a video about that because that's a big issue for a lot of people. That because he's so newly divorced, and then he comes over to a relationship show, is that going to stand well with the fans and with the cast? And actually, somebody posted something about, I'll do in a separate video. I don't want to do a whole, recap because I want to stay on task and I want to be cognizant of people's time, for this live. But yeah, I'll do a separate video in regards to that whole thing. All right. Okay. Let us move on. We're going to talk about um, the experts sitting down for their own session since we're talking about experts. So they admitted that they don't expect every relationship to work out, but they certainly hope they do. And now they were asked by Kevin if they were really happy about the fact that 4 out of the 5 relationships or couples chose to stay together after decision day. They were excited, but they also, I think there was some hesitation on a couple of them. Now, they actually thought that Mark and Lindsay would have made it, which I don't know how, but they were saying that they had more high hopes for those two because they think they were so much alike. What they didn't see, yes, I think, was with Jasmina and Michael. And I think a lot of the fans was like, what? Now there was some fans that supported them, and was happy about them. But what did you guys think? Did you guys think? Put a 1 in the chat if you actually think that they um would have made it, or were you happy about it? Or put a 2 and you would think like, nah, I knew they were gonna fail. Because me myself, I didn't think they were gonna make it. When I first saw the season in the beginning, I was rooting for them, but after a while, no, I lost it early on. So yeah, me, I didn't see that there. But I will say that the experts was overly supportive with the progress of Elijah One and Katina. They were flabbergasted. I think even Kevin Frazier, you said a 1, yeah. Even Kevin Frazier said that he was shocked because he was like, I didn't think this was going to work at all. And they actually thought that there was some serious patience on the hands of Katina. Obviously, she really liked this. She really liked her some O, because most women, you know, and even men too. Most men or women, if they're not into somebody, they're not going to spend that time fighting and trying to wait and show perseverance and patience. Katina loved that man. Now she might didn't say it till later on, but I don't think she's going to stick through waiting for the progress, the growth, the progression, because she was just there just because. That girl really, really loved that man. And I honestly think he was serious about her, but it needed to be somebody like her to help him grow, to show him that, this is what I have. I mean, I will say she obviously thought that her life skills, because obviously now that she's cooking more and learning how to cook gourmet meals, as they say, obviously, she decided on her own to take the steps to kind of learn how to cook more. So, and that's their marriage. I'm not going to, a lot of people was thinking like, you're good as you are. You ain't got to do nothing. He need to come in, step it up, blah blah blah. And I think, who is that? Was that Jazz that said, "Dude, you don't even cook yourself," or something like that? But we saw him cooking in 2 episodes at the beginning of the season. So it is what it is. They're behind the scenes. They see more than we do. But yeah, it's a pretty interesting thing, to watch that progression and watch the growth. As for Steve, they were definitely happy about their relationship. That's when it led to the whole conversation um about them being separate. They're married, but they're living separate. And the bombshell of Dr. Pepper and how she's been married for 16 years, and they had their own separate houses when they met, and they didn't want to sell their houses. And so they had kids in previous marriages. So at this point, they just travel between the two houses. Obviously, it works for them. So I mean, but I do like the fact that she said even though that's what we do and we're older and we've been married for a long time, it's not a good idea to start out that way when you're a new marriage because you need that, especially on Married at First Sight. It's not like you've been dating for a year or two and then you got married. You've only known this person for 8 weeks. Now, I get it that maybe Noy might feel a little bit uncomfortable, but it's like, okay, usually living together when you're married is pretty common. So, what were you expecting coming into this? You do know this is Married at First Sight. This is not Ready to Love like the other show where you date and you want to see how it goes as a dating couple outside of the relationship. I mean, outside of the show, you're in a relationship. This is married at first sight. Even Married at First Sight Australia are not legally binding marriages, so they date until they can do an actual marriage. Here in the States, you're married. You got to go through a divorce if you don't stay together. So I don't know what Noy was thinking, but obviously Steve is okay. He wanted her to be comfortable with it. But I agree with Dr. Pepper on this. Is like when you're in a new marriage like that, you need that time to get to know each other, see each other's habits, and all of that. And then they talk about the whole thing with Sriracha and how she's okay with it, you know. So, yeah. Um, but honestly, if Steve and Noy can make it work for them, then so be it. Um, Kim, hey Kim. If the experts were more present and helpful, Jasmina and Michael could have worked. They should not have been able to go a month without talking. I agree with that. But I just think there's a disconnect when it comes to Jasmina. I honestly believe that Michael truly was interested in her, but there was a part of Jazz that was just not allowing her to connect with Michael. So even if they had a maybe pushed them together and the experts was like, you need to do this, you need to hold hands, you need to do after the cameras go away, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I agree with you on that point, but I also see the fact that I don't think Jazz was into him. Now, a lot of people said it was his height because she looked like she's about 2 or 3 inches taller than him. But on the after party, when Keisha Knight Pulliam brought that up in probably one of the first or second after parties, Jasmina was like, I have no problem with this height. So I don't know what it was, but it's something, it just wasn't clicking for Jazz. Um, Shanice says, "Oh, hey, Gwen. Gwen, Jasmina's too mean for Michael." Yeah, that whole conversation, and we're going to talk about that because then the experts get to talk to three of the couples who didn't make it. But the way she talks to him, and okay, so here's the other thing that a lot of the fans noticed last night is that Jasmina seemed to control most of the conversation. She looked like she wanted to control the conversations with the ladies and the conversations that she had with Michael with the experts. So I mean, yeah, that's got to be an interesting dynamic. And Mike, he really couldn't get a word in edgewise, but we'll talk about that. Kimberly says Katina and O were physically attracted to each other. That is why they tried more. They should at least pick people that think that they think will be attracted to each other and let them work out the rest. I mean, you have to have some physical attraction. I mean, these days it's just interesting that, I mean, I don't even want to get into that because the dating market right now is crazy. But the first thing that you see is a person's physicality. Is this something that I find, is this person someone that I find attractive? Once you get there, Then you get to look at the personality, the connections, the core values, the goals, all of that type of stuff. So I agree with you on that. Shani said for married at first sight couples who stay together, they are newlyweds for at least 2 years because the 8 weeks are not easy. So they need to move in together. Absolutely. Because what happened if you delay moving in together? And Shanice is talking about Steve and Roy. And then 4 months from now, you decide to live with each other. And then you start seeing habits, laundry habits, eating habits, how you keep your house. Now, granted, they got a little bit of that because they had to stay in an apartment together for 8 weeks. But even that, you did that for 8 weeks. Why would you move out separately? And you paying two rents because I don't think Noy owns her place. I think she's renting. So why shell out that extra money when you're talking about having a baby in a year, right? Why shell out all that extra money when you could be saving that money and putting it towards something else, but you're paying just paying separate money for housing. I don't understand that. Fueled by intention said what, which is why Jasmina and Michael did not work. They needed to live together. Yes. Right, exactly. Hello again, Gwen. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And yeah, if they can make it work, fine. But it's gonna be tough. I mean, what I don't understand is one thing if they dated for a year, they didn't live together, right? Then they were married and they moved right in the step. But y'all were together for 8 weeks. Y'all lived in the same house. He walked her dog. He was cleaning the house. He was cooking. She worked from home while he was there. And whatever other things she did around the house that we didn't get to see on camera. So you should already have an idea what it's like to live with with Steve, um, after being in the same residence for 8 weeks. You're talking about living with somebody for 2 months. So then you move back out. What, you need space? I don't get it. And once they open up their social medias, more than likely they're going to probably do some lives and some interviews. So we'll definitely get to know more about why they did what they did. Gwen says Steve was amazing. Yeah, and the way he handled that whole when she left for 24 hours and then putting cryptic messages on social media, he sat her down and had a conversation, and he was very, very diplomatic, but he got his point across. He was like, "Look, you can't be doing that. When you do that, it makes us look bad. You know, um, my whole family was calling me, asking me if everything was okay because they're looking like my new wife is putting cryptic messages on social media. That whole thing was so immature. These people don't know you. If anybody you should be talking to is your husband. If you got a problem with them noodles and and the whole noodle gate situation, you don't why go out there, get on social media and talk crazy? Taylor from season 10 did that exact same thing with Brandon, talking about how she needed a man from another culture and talking about eggplants and all this other stuff on social media. It got back to Brandon. So Married at First Sight showed it on TV. Granted, they weren't meant for each other, obviously. But at the same time, why do that? So you can get a bunch of people to support you when you should be fixing your own relationship. Those people can't help you. I didn't agree with that. Um, let's see. So, Noise seems very stiff around Steve and not really happy. Yeah, she always have these facial reactions where she give him these side eyes and her lips are pursed and kind of tight. She smiles and it's almost like I don't know if she was trying to control herself for the cameras or what that was, but it does seem that way. Fueled by Intention says they live with each other for 6 or 7 days. So I don't think it make a difference. Okay, so they're only away from each other over the weekend. Is that what you're saying? So but even still, hopefully they're there because eventually, if a baby pops up, because they're planning to have a child, y'all ain't gonna be living in separate households trying to, have, raise your child. I mean, it's just not a good. I mean, it happens. People co-parent, but y'all married. Y'all not divorced. Y'all not separated. You're married. So hopefully they can figure that whole thing out. So let's talk about the experts get a chance to have some conversations with these couples. So um, Chris and Alyssa met with the experts. Alyssa addressed the fact that her request wasn't met. And this is where we saw Dr. Viviana decide to pull out the receipts of her application and read some of the qualities that Alyssa listed on her application, pointing out that all these qualities Chris had in them. Okay, so let me stop right there. Qualities like loyal and, affectionate, yeah. But like we just talked about earlier, you have to be attracted to that person with those qualities. So I'm wondering, that goes back to my earlier statement. Did she put on the application that she wanted a country type guy? Because if she did, and they gave Chris is a businessman, he's a real estate investor and broker. I follow him on Instagram. He's all now his social media has been open for some time because I guess he left the show early. But he's always talking about the houses he sold or a house that's up for sale and all of this kind of stuff. So if she don't want a white collar guy, okay, fine. But did you put that on your application? That's my question. Did you put that on your application? Was it a situation that says, look, I like an outdoorsman who likes gun ranges and who likes to hunt? Okay, so if she did put that on the application, why would you match her with Chris? That's not who he is. Now, it's one thing to match people on loyalty, affection, and stuff like that. But that other stuff, like she said, Alyssa was like, I didn't get my core values. Now, here's the crazy thing about it. They asked her, well, what are those core values? And she said, I don't want to talk about it right now. I'm like, Alyssa, this is your opportunity to help yourself. So if they give you the open door to say, okay, we didn't give you what you wanted. You said you didn't give us somebody that match your core values. What are your core values? This is where she should have said, I would have liked to have A, B, C, D, E, or G. And if she had said that, then the producers or the experts should have went, well, let me look at her application. Oh, yeah, she did say that. We didn't give that to her. Or that if she didn't put that down and she said something different at this reunion, then they're going to be like, no, Melissa, you put down that you wanted a working guy that is happy and smiley. You didn't say nothing about a country guy who likes gun ranges and hunting. So that was her opportunity to kind of speak up for herself, and she chose not to. It just didn't make sense. Then, with Dr. Viviana telling her that, she was like, I thought this was going to be a comfortable environment and I'm feeling attacked. And she started crying. And you can tell the experts didn't play into that. Because sometimes when people do things like that, that's manipulating people's emotions so they can feel sorry and back off. They didn't fall for it. And they was like, well, hey, I understand. And, she talks about how she's a good person, but they didn't back down. They was like, look, we're just asking you what you want. You said you wanted this. You said we didn't match you with what it is, so help us understand. Um But they told her she needs to widen her expectations if she hoped to find love because, like Pastor Cal said, you got this imaginary person in your head. Ain't nobody gonna match that. If you got this dreamlike guy in your head who does not exist in the 7 billion people on this planet, you're not gonna find it. You might get close, but nobody's perfect. So somebody is going to have to, you're gonna have to figure out what what you want, what you will deal with, what you won't deal with, which is that whole thing about life is about choices and trade-offs. But her looking for this imaginary dude is not working. Um, let's see. Okay, so Kim says, I think Noy is trying to make sure this works out before she lets go of her apartment. It has more to do with how easy it is to find affordable housing in Boston. They also say they're together most days. Okay, that's a good point. Fueled by Intention says, yes, they said that they are generally apart for only one night a week. Okay, that's good to know then. Cool. Um, Fueled by Intentions also says, I think it was political. Some say he is a Democrat and she was a Republican. You know what? I actually saw something about that. And somebody posted something on Twitter. He had something supporting what is it, Black Lives Matter on his shirt. And then somebody said something about the fact that she didn't support that. I don't know. I'm not going to say because I don't know. But I will say Fueled by Intentions. I had seen something about that. So that's all I'm going to say on that one. All right, let's move to this couple, Lindsay and Mark. And the experts were definitely shocked by this. Yeah, I felt sorry for Mark a little bit because of the fact that this girl, when they showed him being upset, she had zero emotions. There's no empathy there. And when it comes to people that don't have empathy, you have to look out for that. That's a telltale sign. Now, I am not an armchair psychologist. Okay. And also, guys, I know I've been rambling for a while. If you haven't already, please hit that like button. We need to let YouTube know that that you're enjoying the content and everything. And so therefore they can continue after we get off to push the content. So hit that like button as well if you're enjoying this. But back to Lindsay and Mark. He tell experts that the bullying got to a point where he couldn't take it anymore. You can tell by his body language. Um, she accuses him though of kicking her out without giving her time to find a living situation. And Mark was like, you lived in my house for 3 months. What are you talking about? Until I had to pretty much I mean, they were hostile toward each other. Mark started shedding some tears. Even with those tears, Lindsay is not sensitive toward him at all. She don't want to apologize, nothing. Even when Dr. Viviana showed her some empathy, you know, she don't think Mark's tears are genuine. So he's just faking. I, I'm like, Lindsay, I mean, it's just not a good look. And like I was saying before I talked about the like button, the whole thing about her not having empathy, that's not a good sign. Usually people that have empathy, and again, I'm not an armchair psychologist, they usually fall in that category of a sociopath or a psychopath. And because that's one of the key things when looking at people like that is no empathy. I mean, there is no feelings, no nothing there. I mean, people were really feeling bad for him, and she was just like nothing. Even when um she was with the women and the looks on her face, because she looked like she was about to snap. when those girls were supporting Alyssa and she was trying to hold it together, her facial reaction, I was looking at her, I'm like, that girl like she about to pop. I'm telling you, she was pissed. But she didn't say nothing because she know how it would look on TV. That will let's see. Yes, okay, that was I was wondering. I think it's a political. Yes, you can tell they don't like her. Lindsay wasn't sorry for nothing. Oh no, I appreciate that few by intentions. Thank you for hitting that like button. Yeah, Gwen, Lindsay was not. She was unapologetically rude. I mean, she would huff and puff when they say something about Mark. She would be like, "Huh, "Yeah, right," or something like that. Very condescending. She has zero empathy for some of the folks around her. Now, whatever pain she experienced with her mom, because I know that was the biggest issue in her life, and the hurt and stuff like that, she needs to go figure out how to deal with that. She cannot go through life like this, like a loose cannon, talking to people like that and dealing with people like that and going to California trying to find these engineers or whatever she said in Reunion Part 1. That ain't gonna help you either because the common denominator is you, Lindsay. You are wherever you are. So whether you in Boston or in California, Lindsay is Lindsay. And just because it's a different crowd, because I know people say, there's a different energy on the West Coast, that doesn't mean that they're going to be able to deal with you and your antics. It is what it is, And hey, E-Love, yes, you caught it live. I know you right in the middle, girl. You can always replay it, but appreciate you. I'm glad you stopped in. Um, but yeah, I mean, then she tried to cut Dr. Viviana off, and it was crazy. But here's the thing: now that she's been on television, that's gonna follow her, her and Alyssa. I mean, you can't have these two with their behaviors, and think that once the season is over, it might die down because eventually a new season happens, and then you get a whole new set of, villains in quotation marks. But Lindsay, she's gonna have to live this down, and any dude that she get with, she claims she wants a guy to kind of tell her stop and don't do this and all of this so type of stuff. I don't agree with that. I honestly think that when she does find that guy, she's gonna flip out. She don't want nobody to tell her what to do. So how are you gonna tell somebody you need to stop and you need to say, don't do that? I don't believe that she's gonna back down to that. I just don't. Because Mark did try to tell her several times, and look at the outcome. I mean, she turned into, as he described, a big bully. So, you know, um, Dr. Viviana did tell them that whatever they don't like about each other is based on some personal things about themselves. So, whatever's going on with the fact that y'all don't like each other is y'all issue. It's y'all issue. And especially because they tend to be similar. So I don't know. I know from beginning of the season when we saw Mark before marrying Lindsay, he was a lot of energy. That's why he was called Mark the Shark. But he got with Lindsay, and man, she broke him down. She broke him down. So yeah, that whole thing was crazy. And then we cannot forget about um Jazz and Mike. So they talked about why they broke up, right? And I don't know, the experts look like they was trying to push them together again. Would they reconsider? And then they talked about how the fact of this whole miscommunication over a laptop. And that's what really set her off. And I'm like, you have got to be kidding me. So I guess she asked for a laptop. He was supposed to bring it back. He didn't bring it back. And then he said something about, well, I didn't know you needed it. And I'm like, what? You're kidding, right? I was like, I don't believe that they're arguing over miscommunication because that's all there was, and a difference of opinion. It led up to this whole big old blow up and the fight that they had that they called it quits, you know. And then she was like, I got the receipts and the proof that I did the work and I tried to call you. And then when he speak up, then she shut him down. And then she was like, I'm not done talking. I'm like, so Mike just gave up. Mike was like, you know what? I'm just going to shake my head and just be quiet because she was not letting him in that conversation at all. You're right, Gwen. Lindsay knows she can't take correction. You are absolutely correct. But as for Mike and Jazz, there is a no-win situation in there. And Mike was like, you know what? I'm just over this. You know, obviously it's been a while since they broke up and they've moved on, but she was like, I did. I called you and look, I can show you the receipts that, you know, I was the one calling and he's trying to get a word in edgewise. And it's just, and then when he tried to explain, we didn't even hear Michael's side of the story. We didn't even hear it. Shanice said, I never heard of divorce over a laptop. That was funny to me. Exactly. Y'all got into a whole fight over miscommunication. Who bringing a laptop to who? Or who picking it up? Or did you really need it? And then Gwen says, I think Michael checked out when she called him aggressive. Yeah, that is a fear word for men these days, especially black men, is that, and a lot of black women don't like calling each other aggressive either. That's a trigger word, period. You know what I'm saying? So I guess he was like, oh no, I'm not going to go in this. I'm not coming out of this show looking like I'm an abusive person. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, he most definitely probably checked out. But you know, him and Mark and Chris and yeah, Mark, Chris and Michael, they didn't stand a chance. They didn't stand a chance. You know, I want to know is what I want to know is did Katrina attend Jasmina's divorce party because Mike and O are real close. I don't know. We'll have to see. There was some stuff came out on social media about the fact of how much Jasmina enjoyed her um, divorce party. I didn't think the divorces happened that quick. Maybe it's quicker in Boston, but a lot of who is that? Somebody just got their divorce finalized. I think it was Zach and Michaela because they posted a couple weeks ago, and you know they got married well over a year ago. So for Jazz and Mike to be divorced already, I'm shocked by that. But that whole post, and I should have clipped it and screenshot it. But it was a couple of people talking about somebody need to come get her because she enjoying her divorce party a little bit too much. So that was crazy. That was crazy. All right. But yeah, Michael didn't stand a chance. I think somewhere between, because looked like Jazz was happy at the wedding. She looked like she had a good time at the reception. And then after that, it just went downhill. The whole thing about the female roommates, and she was talking about how they had his talk and how he was speaking to her and all of that type of stuff. I'm like, okay, this ain't looking good. And then it was all downhill after that. So they tried to make a go of it at the end of the season, but I don't think she was really into him. Shanice said, I don't even think they filed yet. Yeah, I mean the season isn't even over yet. So I don't know how that was possible. But you know, a lot of stuff is posted to social media. All right, and then last but not least, we had the the whole group chat. So the final group session featuring all of the couples, um, Kevin was showing unseen footage, asking questions, and digging deeper into the season. So we saw everything that happened with Elijah One. We saw a little bit of everything that happened. Period. The subject lands on Lindsay and Mark again, and the crazy thing about this is that Kevin wanted Lindsay to apologize. You need to owe that man an apology. She did not want to do it at all. And it took Elijah one to say, make a statement about accountability. It's never too late. And that it's never too late to apologize. It's crazy that that apology had to happen because Elijah one told her to do it. I mean, somebody, you should have that type of empathy to want to do it. But for her to had to be instructed by Elijah one to apologize, and it still even took time to do that. Then Mark was like, I don't know if your apology is genuine. And I'm like, oh my God. And it wasn't. But it's just this going, this circular argument that they like to have each other and with each other. And I will agree with Mark at this point where he said it took you too long to actually, you know, say you're sorry. It took too long. I mean, nobody should have to push an apology out of you. Um, let's see. Jazz is happy enough that friends O and K are happily married. That's all she care about. I know, right? She's gonna be that person that when Elijah One and Katina got something going on, Jazz gonna be right there with them. Sure enough, um, who is Jeanette? O is something else. Girl, he sure is. But let's see. Yeah, there was no apology. They were trying to resolve some tension between Lindsay and Mark, but it just wasn't happening. But I will say, we on a lighter note that they did end the whole conversation with is the fact of Katina and Elijah One and him being Dr. O, because he was giving advice to a lot of the couples, including them. And I was looking at some of the comments, and people was like, Dr. O shouldn't be giving no advice to anybody. But they thought it was interesting, for Elijah One to give counseling to Mike and Jazz. He gave counseling and advice to Lindsay and Mark. I mean, he pretty much talked to everybody. So I thought that was interesting. The other interesting thing that I did enjoy was how Elijah One and Katina said that their marriage had been progressing so much. And he loves his wife cooking the gourmet meals that she's been cooking. He said that he was calling Mike on the phone saying, "Oh my God, Katina cooked this, that, and the third, and it was good." Oh. So he is happy. She's happy. I'm glad about that. The other thing is the girl is cooking lobster tails now. So I knew she was a foodie. And what I mean by a foodie, she has a blog where she travels to different restaurants, and she, kind of like a food critic. And she takes pictures of the venues and, the ambiance and the food and talk about how good it is. So she definitely likes food. Now, I maybe these places that she's been to, she's been learning how to cook the food there now that she's married. So I don't know, but it looked like Elijah One is picking up a little happy weight because that suit was kind of tight. So that marriage and that food and everything, he putting on some relationship pounds. So I'm just glad that he did the work. He saw his behavior. He took the accountability. he did the growth and made the progression. Even though a lot of people didn't want to give him the grace and they wanted to write him off, that has been the running story for the last 2 months about Olajuwon. And anybody that defended him, look out. Anybody that supported him, look out. And people was calling Katina names and oh, you don't know your worth and you're a pick me and all this kind of stuff. And she has the patience and the perseverance. She wanted to make that marriage work, and obviously he did too. And that's what happens when two people put in the work. You put in the work and you're going to get the results. You don't put in the work, you're not going to get the results. People are going to be stuck. They're going to stay at the same position that they're in, and you're not going to grow and move forward. Gourmet Meals, baby, she hooked. She got that good Niagara Falls. Oh my gosh, Shanice, you're crazy. You are so crazy. It's giving happy. Yeah, they look like they're a happy couple. You know what I'm saying? And she got that big old ring on her finger. Now let's talk about, so now, because the recap is pretty much over. So let's just shoot the conversation for a little bit. There were folks questioning the ring and after Olajuwon repropose or propose because he never got a chance to. In part one reunion, people was like, "Oh, I need to see it. I need to see the quality of the diamond. Is it real?" He had to sell his house to get that ring to her. Oh, he's just copying off of Steve. He don't want. He trying to show Steve up, and I'm like, you guys got to be kidding me. So people actually started checking into his finances, and I'm like, Katina's happy. That's what counts. I mean, they were checking for that ring. You talking about dissecting, breaking it down. Is it fake? Is the diamond cloudy? What's the quality? One woman, I guess she works in the jewelry business or whatever. She was in one of the groups talking about, I need to see that ring. I need to know if it's real or fake or not. And I would be a good judge of character. And I'm like, y'all got to be kidding me. Seriously? This is what we doing. Now, of course, once everybody opens up their phone, and honestly, I showed some pictures because I tried to for my recaps last week, and I did another separate recap for Katina and Olajuwon. I did show a picture of the actual ring when she held it up to show it to Kevin Frazier. That's the best I could get for you guys. But more than likely, once the season is over next week and they are able to open up the social medias, oh, she gonna be flaunting that ring. She gonna be flaunting that ring, and that sucker is huge. So I don't know. I really, I don't know where he got it from, but from the distance I'm looking at it, it's really cute. They did show some behind the scenes of her really excited and in tears over the ring because a lot of people was like, she didn't seem so excited about that ring when he gave it to her. Maybe she was questioning it. Well, they had some behind the scenes because one thing, if you follow Lifetime, Married at First IG page, and Mavs Insider, they post a lot of behind the scenes stuff in their reels, in their Insta stories, and just random posts on their IG accounts. And there were a lot of behind the scene pictures where they had filmed her being so excited. She showed Jasmina. Jasmina started crying about the ring. So obviously that ring had an impact on some people. You know what I'm saying? So, hey, if she happy and in tears, her friends are happy and in tears, everybody's excited about it. That's what counts. Listen, I mean, I've seen some people. who, like, okay, I'll give you prime example. Karen and Miles are married 2.5 years deep, right? Like I said, they're fine. They just bought, they got a new loft home. They got a new dog, and they're going to Dubai in the fall. Dubai, together, one of the richest cities on the planet. And both of them still wear their married at first sight rings because to them it's more about the marriage than a piece of jewelry. Now, I'm not diminishing anything with anybody who wants the big rings because, hey, whatever floats your boat in your marriage. But for some people, it's not the size of the ring. I've seen people with small diamonds. I've seen people with bands, and they're happily married because what it does come down to, outside of everything else, is how healthy your marriage is. Karen and Miles still have their same bands on, and they're still married 2.5 years. Now, Woody did give on the reunion in season 11 a new ring to Amani. So we did see that. And I think in an earlier season before Woody, one of the other grooms or husbands gave a new ring to their wife as well. So, I mean, guys, y'all pull out, y'all dissect everything Olajuwon does. I mean, gosh, it's just crazy. Shanice says, oh, wait, Latricia says, I think Katina wants to be that wife that can cook. She's never said that she don't want to cook for him. So I don't know why people making that a big deal. Yeah, I agree. Shanice said, O makes almost 100K a year. He got savings and all of that. He can afford that ring, trust me. But still, that doesn't matter to nobody but Katina and him. They be doing too much. I know. That dude works for the city of Boston. And people were, because they had his title. And Married at First Sight put whatever they want to, but they had him listed as a municipal waste operator. That could mean anything. And so people were going on to salary.com, typing in municipal waste operator just to see. And I think somebody had pulled up something about 50, $60,000 and then turn around and said, see, he shouldn't be asking for none of that. You need to step up your money in your game in order for you to be asking for meals and stuff like that. And I'm like, oh Lord, Lord. So anywho, I mean, it was really crazy this season when it comes to, these two. I'm trying to think of some of the other things I came across. So, yeah. So at the beginning of the season, I did hear about the whole thing where Lindsay was in Mark's house for 3 months. He was trying to get her out, and she was living like a squatter or something. That was what was on Reddit or Twitter back earlier in the season. And then here we heard about how Mark said, you were in my house for 3 or 4 months and I, tried to get you out. I'm trying to see what else. I think from what I understand is now I can kind of talk about spoilers. We're at the end of the season. I don't know if this is going to be indicative of what happens next week, but I did hear with Michael that he is in a new relationship, and the person that introduced him to the person that he's with is another content creator. So I don't know if maybe he became friends with another YouTuber or something, or I don't know. But that's what I heard. We'll have to get the more details on that if that's actually the case. Um, I did hear that Katina and O bought a house in December. So that would explain the selling of the other house that he bought in 2019. So he did buy a house because a lot of people were questioning all of his history. Did he go to college? Did he actually pay off his debt? Did he have a scholarship? If he had a scholarship, then you can't count that as you paying off his debt. And I had did a whole video about that because he went to the type of school that, and I don't know if he had academic, but with athletic, he went to a D3 school. And being that I'm an athletic mom, because my daughter played, she was a student athlete throughout college. I know what D1, D2, D3, NC2A, NAIA, JC, and all that stuff means. So with him being at a D3 school, you can only get academic scholarships. You cannot get athletic scholarships. You can only get them at D1, D2, or NAIA school. He was at a D3 school. So if he had student debt, which most likely he probably did, or he had to pay that off. And the fact that he had to pay student debt off, when I know people in their 40s are still paying on student debt, I think that's a huge accomplishment. And turn around and clean up his credit enough where he can buy a house back in 2019 before, he came onto the shelf, right? Then he sells the house, which obviously you're going to get whatever equity in your pocket, from the money from that. So whatever savings he's had, his current job, and the money from the sale, they're doing fine. And from what I understand, what I heard at the beginning of the season, allegedly they bought a new house together. So we'll probably get to see more details about that, because I know on the reunion part one, they talked about how they sold a house and moved into an apartment because he didn't want, it's a lot of history. He probably brought girls up in there. Isaac lived there, as he said. So he wanted a fresh start in a new environment with his new wife. I I love that. Because I mean, if have you ever heard of that whole thing? If these walls could talk, So for him to say, you know what, I want to start off everything new with my new wife, and I don't want to have to, I don't want her to have to come in where maybe I've had other relationships and been in this house. I totally understand that. Totally. So allegedly they got a new house, and from what I understand, it was back in December. So the well, let's see, because the reunion was filmed in February. So if they got, we'll just have to wait and see. We'll have to wait and see. So Michael moved on. Chris did move on. I don't think he moved on with Olivia, even though we got that for next week coming up with the where they are now or whatever. But from what I understand, he has a whole new girlfriend, and I think he posted a picture of her on social media last week, and she's a pretty redhead girl. So he'll probably post more pictures of her, after the season. Now, earlier in the season, I did hear about Alyssa being with Ryan, because that's the other thing that's coming up next week. Now, did they make it work? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But I did hear that at the beginning of the season, the spoiler came out that they were dating. So whether it continued after this whole "Where Are They Now" episode, we'll have to wait and see. Um, okay, so Lindsay moved out. Mark, somebody showed a picture of Mark, actually allegedly is a manager at a Chick-fil-A down in Boston. So I know he was talking about he lost his job and then he wanted to get back into personal training. Maybe he still does personal training on the side. I know he did it back in the day because I posted some pictures on my Instagram that I found on YouTube that he did probably like maybe 8 years ago, where he was showing people how to work out and lift weights and stuff like that. So obviously, personal training was a thing of his for a very long time. But somebody also spotted him working at Chick-fil-A, but he was a manager though. So I don't know if that's 100% allegedly. I always like to say allegedly because I don't want these people coming back with me for defamation or anything. But allegedly, that's what somebody had posted. They even had a picture of it. Let's see, what else? What else? What else? Um, okay, let me look in these comments. Shanice said Katina was definitely excited. She totally forgot about old talking and kept staring at the ring. Because I'm like, girl, she's saying nothing. She was just looking at that ring. That girl was so excited about that ring. We didn't hear too much from Katina at all in that group setting. LaQuisha says, oh, Maria. Hi, Maria. Welcome. Um, Oh yeah, wait a minute. I don't want to miss any comments. Okay, Shanice said, "Girl, remember that part whenever O talks about their intimacy?" Yeah, he was pretty much speechless. The boy can't even get his words out. And one thing about O, he likes to talk. So for them to have bring up the intimacy subject and he can't get it out, yeah, that was crazy. Um, People are obsessed with O. They sure are. They sure are. Shanice said the reunion was filmed in February and they said they were in apartments. So did they really buy a house? We'll find out more in depth probably after. I'm waiting. I'm waiting for them to open up their social medias. Um, yeah, Shanice is agreeing with LaQuisha about them being obsessed. Ryan is too nice for Alyssa. Yeah, I mean, we'll see if the energy changes. So have you guys ever seen a situation where you have two people dating and they just don't get along, but they get with two totally different people and they're happy as ever? So the only thing I can think of is that unless you are a truly person toxic person, the people that don't get along with each other, obviously there's no connection there and it's just a mismatch. But then they can go off to somebody else and be together for years, happy, married with no problem. And that's usually because there's two different energies there. Like I say, unless they're a completely toxic person themselves, then they're not going to be able to be with nobody. But we'll have to see because from what Alyssa described and wanting that country guy who, you know, is like Ryan, we'll see if that's a match. But Gwen, maybe Ryan will be too nice for Alyssa. Stay tuned reviews. Welcome. Everyone guilted Lindsay into apologizing, Mark, but where's Chris's apology? That's a good point. That is a good point. Why didn't they say, "Hey, Alyssa, you need to apologize to Chris"? I agree with that. Jasmina and Alyssa are just alike. Well, it seems so. They have a lot in common. I think that's why they're really good friends. Shanice says, "I don't know what Katina be doing to this man, girl. Listen, we gonna find out. We're definitely gonna find out." Because when they do, because I'm waiting for every notification because I'm not accepted yet. I've requested to follow them, but they can't accept anything based on the contract. They can't accept anybody. But I'm looking forward to when they open up these IGs because more than likely they're going to be going live, and I'm waiting for the notifications to pop up because I'm going to be right there. Stay tuned, says Katina put that Super Soaker 5000 on the look. That's a good one. That's a good one. Blew his mind away and made him speak in tongues, made him forget all about cooking criteria. That's a good. I gotta laugh at that. That is hilarious. That is hilarious. Man, because remember, they supposedly, and I'll put in quotation marks, they supposedly hadn't slept together this entire season, right? Until after the decision day. And then I guess whatever happened after that, shoot, girl, whatever it was, she got his mind blown, 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 blown. I'm trying to think of some of the other things that I've heard this season. But let me ask you guys, so while we got the 2 couples next week, that's supposed to be checking for each other. So what do you think about Olivia and Chris? Do you think they're a good fit? Now remember, Olivia was the girl who she's a nurse practitioner, remember? And she was the person that wanted to travel a lot and be able to spend her money. She wasn't like a Merla, because Merla had a whole different energy with hers. But Olivia was the type of person where she felt like she should travel and do what she want. So, what do you think about if she's going to be a good fit for Chris? And as for Alyssa, we kind of talked about the whole thing with, with her and Ryan. So stay tuned says that involuntary celibacy built up too much frustration, but she got his mind blown and his nose wide open. Ola gonna be looking for Katina in the daytime with a flashlight. That's funny. Stay tuned. You are hilarious. Welcome to the chat. We have a lot of fun over here. Olivia was like Alyssa. Yeah, I mean, Olivia had a lot of high standards. She would go over to Brett's house and was looking like, oh, this little old bitty house, and oh, you got 2 computers, and I want to be able to do things. And Brett at the time on season 11, Brett, the male version of Brett, um, he felt bad because he was pretty much just average working guy, and Olivia was looking at him kind of like looking down her nose at him. So I don't know if that's going to be the same thing with Chris. Um, Shanice said, "Well, that's true because the way he looks at her is everything." I know, right? They look at each other, just adoring each other. Fueled, fueled by intention says, "I love Olivia and Chris. I think they would do great together." Yeah, well, we'll have to see. We will have to see. Stay tuned says Olivia and Chris are a bad fit if she's the same as she was during season 11. She was looking for a companion who could afford her lifestyle. I think Chris wants a wife or partner. Yeah, that's a good point because yes, she wanted to. I mean, as a nurse practitioner, you're a step below a physician. You actually can treat patients yourself. That's what an NP does. And so they're making well over 6 figures. And so with her lifestyle where she wanted to be able to have a travel companion and be able to live the same lifestyle that she has, you know, that was gonna be tough for Brett. The question is Chris want that same thing? And I honestly agree with you. I believe that Chris wants a wife as well. Yes, he does. He definitely wants a wife as well. Um, I'm trying to think of some of the other comments that was really interesting this season. I was so over that whole Steve no job thing. I got sick of it. Um, what else happened this season? Honestly, okay, you guys answer this question for me. Do you think that if Michael made the first move, now I want you guys to answer this, 18 of you up in here, at least half of you guys, whoever is want to answer this question. If Michael had made the first move, what do you think Jasmina's reaction would have been? Because there's a lot of people saying, "Oh, Michael should have just went ahead and made the first move, and maybe Jasmina wanted him to do that." Do you actually think that that would have happened? I want to know what you guys think. He would be in jail today. I said the same thing, and I think Michael absolutely know that he wouldn't have been able to make that move with Jazz. Because even though she claimed during the season, I kind of wanted him to make the move, I would have been open to it. I don't believe that. I truly don't. Debbie says Jasmina would have rejected Michael if he made the first move. Absolutely. So for those fans who are saying, "Oh, Jazz wanted him to make the first move. He should have did it." I don't agree with that. I mean, she was even the man was asleep next to her, and his hand was on her butt. Remember that conversation on decision day? And she was like, "This man's hands on my butt," and she had to make a whole conversation to the experts about it. So could you imagine if Michael came home? He came in the kitchen and Jazz is up there. She just finished work or she grabbing a snack. And he came up behind her, whispered in her ear and said, "Ooh, you look sexy today." And, man, I wish we could. Do you think Jazz would have been like, "Okay, cool, let's go"? Absolutely not. Now, the other way around, I think if Michael was sitting up in there watching the game and Jazz came up in there and kind of touched him on his arm and said, "Man, you smell good. Let me come over here and smell up under your neck." Michael would have been really open to that. But Jazz, absolutely not. Um, Stay tuned says if Michael made the first move, Jasmina would have yelled stranger danger. She sure would have. Jasmina would have rejected Michael if he made the first move. You are absolutely right, Debbie. Maria says, "Hey, Maria, totally agree. She wasn't into him. She wasn't. She wasn't." Stay tuned says, Jasmina never gave Michael any choosing signals. You are absolutely correct on that. Michael would have found it easier to hook up with a coworker that he barely knew. And that's good he tried to stay to the process. Because like you said, he could have been like, "You know what, this girl don't want me. What am I even wasting my time here?" But he stuck to the process. LaQuisha says even on their wedding day when they were dancing, she said something about him trying to touch her butt. That's what I'm saying. I mean, that's why I don't understand when she made that comment about, I would be open to it. And then some of the fans are like, "Michael, just go ahead and make the first move." That would not happen. That wouldn't happen. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that. Okay, another question for you guys. Thanks for the answers. Really appreciate the engagement. So here's another question for you guys. When it comes to Steve and Noy, was Noy more worried about him not having the money, or was Noy more worried about not having a plan? Because that was the biggest consensus that I saw on the after party is the fact that, even though this man is not, on a 9 to 5 typical job and he might have savings, what's the plan? What do you guys think about that? Stay tuned said Michael would have been on Dateline getting approached by Chris. Oh my God, that is too funny. Okay, so you guys are answering. Gwen says the plan. Shanice says the plan. Debbie says the plan. I agree because you know what? It's one thing to have a ton of cash, but if you don't know how to spend that money and you just flying by the seat of your pants and you don't have a plan, you could be broke in 2 months. I mean, if somebody come and say, "Here's $50,000," if you go on a shopping spree and buy up a bunch of stuff and all of that type of thing, no investments, no savings, you're gonna blow through that money. So a plan is absolutely necessary. And especially with your new wife, you want to know, okay, you got savings? What else are you doing? You got crypto? Okay, cool. How are we saving it? As in an investment? What type of IRAs or CDs or whatever? So a plan is absolutely necessary. Few by intention says she was worried about the money. She was jealous because she wants to stay home. Yeah, I mean, there were a lot of the fans worried about the money too. Stay tuned says Noy was worried that Steve didn't have a paper trail that she could access. Should she get a divorce and or have kids and need some child support? Ooh wee. Well, I will tell you the system is built to track you down, whether you got a paper trail or not, and might put you in jail. But I do understand where you're coming from. Debbie said Noy was good with only 40K, so it couldn't have been the money. Okay, gotcha. Yes, she did say that on the after party. Hey, Kevin, what's going on? Welcome. Mike would have better chance to get some from his roommate than his own wife. Now that's funny. And he had two female roommates. She had a big issue about that. Guys, let me know what you guys think about this. Do you think, okay, so if you found out your significant other or new boyfriend, girlfriend, or whatever had male or female roommates, depending on who you are in the group. If you're a male, you find out that your female girlfriend or girlfriend had a male roommate, and vice versa. Like in Michael's situation, he had not just one, but two female roommates. Would you have an issue with it? I want to know what you guys think about that. Because Jasmina had a huge issue with the female roommates, but you guys, I don't know if you remember, she has a male roommate, and so much so, I think he was on one of the video chats that she did later in the season. What do you guys think about that? Would you would have been okay with that? Would you would have been okay with them having an opposite sex roommate? Jasmina didn't care because she didn't want him anyway. Well, she sure put up a big stink about it. I can't believe he didn't tell me. He had a whole two female roommates. And that became, oh my God. In that moment, with the fans, Michael became an instant villain because they thought, oh yeah, he keeping that a secret because he probably sleeping with one of them. And they were dragging him in during that time period. But once Jasmina started showing who she was, that instantly disappeared. People forgot all about that. Debbie says, I could care less about a roommate, but Jasmina is competitive, so she want to be the only woman. Yeah, but she had a whole male roommate. That's the crazy thing. Shawnee said, hell no, as Katina said on the after party. That's not possible for my man. Yeah, now you know Katina and Elijah one wouldn't go for that at all. Katina would have been gone, and O would have definitely been gone if Katina had a male roommate. So, yeah, that was crazy. So, I'm gonna get a laugh out of this one. I'm gonna ask this question. Is Alyssa a good person? One in the chat for yes, two in the chat for no. And watch this. What applies to Jasmine doesn't apply to Michael. It don't seem that way, does it? Michael was afraid of Jazz. Yeah, Michael was afraid of Jazz, and Mark was afraid of Lindsay. They both were afraid of those two. Yeah, that was crazy. But I did a video on the other day. Yeah, Gwen, you put in a two. Yeah, a lot when I posted that, is she a good person or was it the cameras? In my comment section, people was like, she's a horrible person. She is not a good person. Fueled by Intention says 1.5. Okay, I'm gonna need you to elaborate on the 1.5. Kevin says 2. Hell no, she's not a good person. Oh my gosh. Shanice said 1.5. Okay. So she is a good person, but he just didn't do well with Mark. I mean, with Mark, Lord have mercy. He just didn't do well with Chris. Is that what you guys, Shanice and Fueled by Intention? 1.5. Is that what you mean? Let me know. I'm trying to think of some other stuff that happened that I came across this season. Well, she is spoiled and once here at so a normal day, I think she'll be a different person. Okay, gotcha. Gwen said she was just terrible. She was definitely terrible to Chris. She was horrible to Chris. Yeah, that was bad. That was really, really bad, and it's just so unfortunate. Um, I'm trying to think. Yeah, so we kind of touch bases with all of the couples. What did you guys come across any spoilers or anything that you heard in social media about any of the cast of this season? Um, I'm trying to think anything new coming for season 15. Why you guys got anything like that? It said yes, she did not do this. She did not do Chris right, but she is nice with the ladies. Yeah, I did see. I find that kind of interesting that she was really cool with the girls, but when it came to Chris, it was a no go. She was like, "I am not here for it." The interesting thing about Lindsay, here's an interesting tidbit about Lindsay and Alyssa. Both Lindsay and Alyssa are both Libras. They're the same zodiac sign, which is crazy. Okay. Stay tuned. Said Instagram had the spoilers a few weeks into the season. Yeah, there is one content creator who I think maybe she keeps in contact with maybe somebody behind the scenes, so they kind of give insight on excuse me, insight on the cast members early on. But yeah, yeah, season 15. Let's see, like I said, everybody had really good jobs. We got a doctor, we have a medical director. Um, what else we have on there? Like I said, if you haven't seen that recap, go check it out. There's an engineer on there. So that, like I say, that whole running joke about not having a job, Married at First Sight definitely didn't do that in season 15. Only other thing I will say about season 15, I think only one or two people are from San Diego. There are some people there from the East Coast. There are some folks from New York. Um, some folks on the cast from other areas. So I don't know if that was weird to me when I actually checked that out, and I did put it in my recap that some of the, how most of the people live in the state that the show is in. So, like with, of course, New Orleans, except for the whole question about where Christina, remember Henry and Christina, because there was a big question about where she lives, but she's also a travel agent. Most of those people lived in New Orleans. Same thing with Houston. Most of those folks live in Houston. We saw that with Atlanta. Same thing. Season 12. Most of them live in Atlanta. But for season 15, when they said, "Well, I'm from here. I'm from New York," and one person was from, is it South Carolina or what, Virginia or something? I'm like, could y'all not find anybody in San Diego? So y'all opened it up or something for this act? That was weird to me. That was really weird. Um, yeah, Mavs fan. She does post something. She was the one that posted that Jazz and Michael was going to say no on decision day, but they actually said yes, but they broke up after decision day. And I think it happened with season 13. There was a mix up too. That it was supposed to be 0 out of 5 to say yes on decision day, and we had two. So, I mean, it is what it is. Lakeisha says the two couples that didn't argue on their honeymoon are the ones that made it. Yep. Stay tuned says, how do you feel about Dr. Viviana leaving the show? From what I understand, because I follow Dr. Viviana on Instagram, she has a lot of huge projects of her own. I think she's doing her own relationship coaching, and I knew she was that anyway, but I think she's ramping that up. So she's got a lot of outside projects that she's going to be working on separate from the show. Plus, she's married, so I don't think they have any kids yet. I could be wrong, but I don't know if she's thinking about having kids, so that could be in the works too. Maybe she want to get off the road, do her own thing down in Houston, because I think that's where she's actually from, is Texas. But maybe she decided that she want to come away from the show and just do her own thing. Plus, I will say from the previous seasons, the experts have been getting a lot of flack from the fans. And I will say Dr. Viviana and Dr. Pepper have been jumping in the trenches with some of these fans, and these fans have been going toe to toe with them. And that's got to be rough after a while. It's got to take a toll because it's one thing for them to know what go on behind the scenes and what the fans actually see. So she got a lot of criticism over season 12 and 13. And she would get out there and say, "You don't know these people. They are humans too. And you should be nice to them." And the fans would come back even harder. So at some point, I think it takes a toll on you. And so I wouldn't blame her, but social media is an unforgiving place. I couldn't do it. I couldn't go on these shows, sign up for this stuff, not me. But I like to talk about it. I like watching, looking for love and romance in these couples. But social media is an unforgiving place. So for these fans, um, coming after her like they did when she tried to stand up for some of the cast members, that gotta take a toll. So for her to kind of step away and do her own projects, that's going to be a relief. She don't have to deal with that. Plus, there's got to be a lot of traveling because these seasons are running concurrent. We used to get a break in between the seasons, like 3 months. Now they're running seasons back to back. So that means that these folks are traveling. Now I know that Dr. Pepper's wife, I mean not Dr. Pepper, Pastor Cal, I'm sorry, Pastor Cal, his wife travels with him a lot because I've seen her on some of the videos when they're in different seasons and in certain states and stuff when they're filming. And his wife right there with him. So, they travel together. And as we know, Dr. Pepper and her husband don't even live together, so she's free to move. So yeah, I didn't mean to, make that question that answer that long, but yeah, I think Dr. Pepper fit. I mean, Dr. Viviana thought it was a good time for her to kind of bow out and do her own thing. Debbie says, "I thought the 15 participants were born in other states, but currently they are." Maybe that's what it was. I could have got it misconstrued. That's possible, but I really truly don't. I mean, if that's the case, then I stand corrected. Shanice says the thing about Mom, she be tapping to make her fans like her more. That's what folks be saying. That's definitely what folks be saying. Stay tuned. Say if she ever becomes single, I'll definitely be willing to risk it all. Okay, you ready to shoot your shot, huh? Shanice said another funny thing is Alyssa's psychic did predict two soulmates because Steve got a lion tattoo and O has a lion tattoo on his neck. So she predicted two wives. Well, maybe that's what her prediction was. It wasn't for herself. Maybe the psychic predicted O and Katina and Steve and Noy. That's a good one, Shanice. Wow. That's pretty interesting. Um, but what would you say about the season? Because I know that um some of the fans hit me up asking me, well, what do I think about the season? What do you think about the show? And stuff like that. What do you think about the season? Do you think it's getting better? Do you think it's getting worse? Um, uh, I want to know what you guys think because some people are not feeling it. I know that a lot of people said they were going to sit out season 15 because they got tired of some of the drama that circulated around season 12 through 14. So a lot of folks missed the whole, like people, most people enjoyed season 11 because of Woody and Amani. Um, Even though they tried to drag Woody in the beginning, everybody jumped on his bandwagon at the end. Um, and then of course Karen and Miles, they're just getting out of the whole being, I don't buy it and I'm not sold on it and y'all just forcing it. It's 2 years now. People are kind of backing off of them, but for the most part, I would say season 11 out of the past 5 seasons, because season 10 was a shit show. I mean, season 10 was crazy. That whole thing with Brandon and Taylor, the whole thing with Michael, Mika, Katie, Derek. Um, we got Jessica and Austin out of it. And then what was the other couple? One more, I think, or was it 4 couples at that time? Anywho, season 10, 12, 13, 14. I'm glad we got Katina and O and we got Stephen Noy out of that. But 10, 12, and 13, straight trash. I gotta give it to my boy uh, Vincent and his wife Brianna, because they came out of 12. Nobody came out of 13. Nobody. That is horrible. I mean, we had Rachel and Jose hanging on a thread, and then they just fell apart. Zach and Zach and Michaela didn't work. Bow and Johnny didn't work. Brett and Ryan didn't work. And who else? What am I missing? Yeah, it just didn't work, and it was just so unfortunate that that was the case. It sucked. Um, the season. Okay, so let's see what you guys say. Gwen says it's worse. Stay tuned. Said the season is getting longer, worse, drawn out, and it seems like the show is intentionally pairing couples who are bad matches. Okay, I absolutely agree with that, especially getting drawn out. Seasons used to last like 3 months. Season 12 started January 13th and didn't end to the middle of June. Now, 13 came out of that and looked like it didn't last as long as 12, but it seemed like they're trying to do that with 14. It's crazy. Those 2 extra episodes, like the mid-season review and the look back and all this kind of stuff, it's like, why? Here's the interesting thing. Let me give you an interesting fact. Married at First Sight Australia has 37 episodes, and they finished that season in 2 months. It started January 31st. It ended the end of March. Now, granted, they have 4 episodes a week. Okay, 4 episodes a week. So their episodes are Sunday through Wednesday. But they don't have, and they have more couples. They had a total of 11. It's either 9 or 11 couples throughout the entire season, and they did all of that in 2 months. We have 19 episodes, and it takes us 5.5 months to get, and it's still not over. We still got next week, and then there's 3 more episodes. There's an episode with Beth and what is her name that just had the baby last year? Deanna, talking about how they make their marriages work and stuff like that. There's an episode of that. And then there's another look back at the Boston season at the end of June. I'm like, how many times do we got to look back at Boston? Seriously. So all they're going to do is keep replaying the stuff with O, keep replaying the stuff with Alyssa, keep replaying the stuff with Lindsay. And then the Michael thing. I mean, and then not Michael, Jasmina thing. It's like, how many times do we got to look back at Boston? It is absolutely ridiculous. We don't need 4 or 5 more episodes. Give us a break. If they want to do the where they are now, okay, fine. But after that, give us a break. Give us 3 weeks to enjoy the summer. NBA Finals is coming up. I'm definitely going to be watching that. I don't want that to interfere with Married at First Sight. I'm a sports head. I love basketball. I mean, seriously, give us a break for 3 weeks before going into, because once that whole look back at Boston, the matchmaking episode starts at the end, the last week in June, going into July, and that thing is 3 hours long. They're trying to get every viewership, every rating, and endorsement that they get paid for. That's what's coming down to: money, money, money. Okay, let's see. Season 10 was crazy to me. Girl, that season was absolutely crazy. Zach and Mindy. Okay, I knew I was feeling somebody. I forget about Zach and Mindy. Why are they adding more experts if they do nothing with the couple to help them navigate a high situation of marrying a stranger? I'm hoping with the extra experts that this would give them the opportunity to spend more time with them. You don't have an excuse now. Let's be honest, every week after the honeymoon, they will highlight the couple's conflict over and over. You are absolutely correct. It's ridiculous. Stay tuned says Zach was a Rolling Stone. Wherever he laid his hat was his home. You funny. Yeah, I was looking forward to the Zach and Bow thing. But when that girl came out, that whole expose and all these other women came out, Zach went into hiding for like 6 months. He's just coming back on his social media as of probably the last 2 or 3 weeks, because he's doing like clips of him playing his piano in his Insta story. So, season 13 was about manipulation, lies, immaturity, and craziness. None of them people match. None of them. Stay tuned said they had 2 break weeks this season was drawn out. Yeah, I mean, why do we need 2 breaks? If Married at First Sight Australia with 37 episodes who can do it in 2 months, they didn't take a break. Why do we need to take a break with only 19 episodes? Make that make sense. They're selling ad time to make money and they don't care about the content. That is absolutely correct. All those medication commercials and commercials about food and other romantic shows and all other stuff, they make money off of that. So yeah, the more episodes, the more ad time. Yep, yep, yep. So let me know, you guys, if you want. Do you guys want me to do a live about the where are they at now next week, or should I just do a basic recap? Are you guys going to watch that, and do you want to talk about it? Let me know in the comment section, because we have been on 2.5 hours, 2 hours and 24 minutes. So I want to give you back some time to enjoy your evening. I know you guys, some of you on the East Coast, so it's almost 8:30 down there. But yeah, let me know if you guys want to do. Oh, you want me to go live? Okay, cool. We'll go live next week, and we'll talk about the whole where are they at now, and see what the couples are doing. So that should be a lot of fun. All right. Okay, you guys, I really enjoyed it. Stay tuned for the upcoming videos that I'm about to do. Random thought during Lindsay versus Alyssa, Katrina, Jasmina. Noy was quiet and wasn't trying to get in it. Yeah. He wasn't trying to get that heat. Nope, you're right. Live, of course. This is fun, girl. Loved it. Okay, cool. Will do. All right, you guys, I gotta go eat. I'm hungry. So I am going to get me some food, and I hope you enjoyed this live. Hit the like button on the way out, and we will see you in the next video. Bye.